South Alabama kicks off the bowl season with a victory, taking down Western Michigan. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we continue to grow. We're almost at 1,800 subscribers. Hopefully, following today's episode, we will be. And, maybe an outside shot. We're going to get probably 1,900 maybe in a week, and we'll see if we can get close to 2,000, more than I ever thought. So really appreciate it. You guys are the best. We're still trying to reach out to these coaches. I do have today and tomorrow off, so those would be the best for me, but we got to work around their schedules. Okay, we'll get to South Alabama here in a second. Marshall opts out of the bowl game. Lots to say about that. And though I haven't watched 1 second of Thundering Herd soccer, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but in reference to football. But they are playing for the national championship. They're taking on Vermont later today. Okay. South Alabama takes down Western Michigan in what was a pretty entertaining bowl game, 30-23. No Gio Lopez, no Fluff Bothwell, and no Jamal Pritchett. So that's like number one, number two, and number three offensive weapons, right? Kendrick Bullock played, and Jeremiah Webb had his coming out party in what I guess is his last game as a South Alabama Jaguar. Had 467 yards of offense this year, receiving yards. And let me see what he had in the first half. 6 catches, 182 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first half. So he had quite the coming out party in, again, he's a senior, although I'm not sure how all these things work now. Didn't play in 20. Not sure if one of the earlier years was a redshirt year or not. Nonetheless, Jaguars started out down 10-0 and really took control of the ball game in the second quarter. At one point in time, I thought it was, so I was out socially, but still watching on the phone, 166 yards to like -1. And South Alabama was taking control, had some kicking issues, missed a chippy field goal, missed an extra point, but they were actually up 16-10 when Western Michigan was driving and they got an interception. Unfortunately, they threw it right back to Western Michigan, and I think this is the turning point of the ball game, actually. The defense held them to a field goal. Instead of Western Michigan taking the lead with a touchdown at the end of the half, going up 17-16, it was a 16-13 ball game. And they just did a great job. It was a 30-20 ball game. And Western Michigan went down and kicked they made it a 30-20. Let me get this right, because I did watch it. Actually, memories are getting short these days, but they just did a good job of, because I can't do math. All right. It was 23-13, and the Broncos scored a touchdown, making it a 3-point ball game with about six minutes left to go, just over 6 minutes left to go. And this is where you can run out the clock. This is where you can basically end the ball game with not kicking the ball away. All right. If you do it properly. A little question on whether they got a first down or not on a measurement, whether Bishop Davenport, who played a pretty good ball game, for being pressed into duty with Gio Lopez being hurt, didn't get it on the third down play after a timeout and then a lengthy review. Although it did look like he they got the call right. He was down just beforehand, although they didn't really move the ball. Instead of being a yard short, he looked like he was about 6 inches short, but whatever. He got it on the next play. And then instead of being able to run down the clock, they got a touchdown. So, which is not necessarily what you want, but you certainly take it. And because the only way they could actually get back in the ball game is to get the ball back. They do give up a field goal, but they recovered the onside kick, and that was your ball game. They had a couple timeouts, but that's a great coaching job by Major Applewhite and company, right? No quarterback. One of your two good running backs is out, and your leading wide receiver is out. That's outstanding stuff. Anthony Eager, who is a true freshman wide receiver, part of the rushing attack. Did he catch a ball? He is, I need to go back and look this up to tell you how fast he is. He competed against Alabama's Ryan Williams in like the 100-yard dash. Those two guys are legit same type of speed, although Anthony is a year older than Ryan, because Ryan should still be in high school and Anthony is the age of a college freshman. But those two kids are contemporaries. Anthony stayed home and went to South Alabama, and we know Ryan Williams' story. But we'll see. I don't think, did he catch any passes? Let's see. Anthony had 2 catches for 11 yards. Devin Boyson had 3 catches. Shamar Sandgren had a couple of catches. Braylon McReynolds, a couple of catches. Braylon McReynolds, by the way, went in the portal. Feels like he has been at South Alabama forever, going back to when I was there. Still has, I guess, 2 years of eligibility. Seems like a lot. Bishop Davenport, 15 to 24, 271 yards. Couple of wayward passes, but a couple of passes on the money. The one touchdown to Webb was absolutely on the money. One was a little bit short, but Webb just took it away from the defender and into the end zone. So he had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception at the end of the half. Kentrell Bullock, 17 carries, 130 yards, 7.6 yards. A carry with the 1 touchdown. Davenport also ran it well, 11 carries and 85 yards. Let's check out the team stats. Total yards, South Alabama, 537 yards, which when we previewed it, we told you that neither team is necessarily all that good defensively, but wow, Western Michigan really struggled because, again, starting quarterback didn't play. Fluff Bothwell, one of the top running backs in the Sun Belt, didn't play, and Jamal Pritchett didn't play. So, and yet still South Alabama had all of those yardage. And Western Michigan, after getting off to a good start offensively, still only finished with 317 yards of offense. So that's crazy. To tell you actually how efficient South Alabama was, Western Michigan had 13 third downs. They converted 5 of them. South Alabama wasn't very efficient on third downs, but they only had 8 third downs of the whole game. They only had 8 third downs. They were 2 of 8 on third downs. They're actually 2 of 2 on fourth downs. So 2 of the third downs they didn't make, they got on fourth down. So that's a really good job. We'll see who sticks around for South Alabama. Gio Lopez is staying. Their kicker did leave. Did he go to Kansas? Did he land in Kansas? Maybe, did I just see that on Sunday? They're usually pretty active. Ken Womack was pretty active in the portal. We'll see how Major Applewhite does right now, a year, and now he's settled in, and now they're done with a bowl game, right? That was one of the hashtag always a bright side kind of benefits of playing in your bowl game so early. You get a couple of things. First off, you get to enjoy the holidays, right? You're not, you and your family and your team can enjoy the holidays, really do a good job of re-recruiting your guys and see what holes you have to fill, help the guys who want to go into the portal, see where you can get them to go, and see what holes you need to fill for next year. So there is hashtag always a bright side when you're looking at it. And, we'll see with Gio Lopez coming back, Jalen Rayner still at Arkansas State. We'll see what Walker Howard does with the Cajuns. Troy seems to be much improved. We'll see what happens with ULM and Bryant Vincent in his second year. And, of course, you have Charles Huff coming with Southern Miss. So I think the East is a little bit more competitive. And I didn't even mention Texas State in the West. So the Sun Belt continues to lift each other up, and it should be another good year next year. But as for 2024, the Sun Belt off to a great start with the bowl season. Having said that, with Charles Huss leaving and Marshall leaving, and Marshall, all the players transferring out, Marshall has opted out of the Independence Bowl. We will talk about that next, right after I tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. As for that South Alabama, Western Michigan game, right when we saw it, it was South Alabama, I thought was by 9 or maybe 8, and the over-under was 57.5. When Gio Lopez was ruled out, it got down to 5.5, which they covered, and over-under went down to 54.5, which they didn't, because Western Michigan had to settle for a field goal at the end and not a touchdown. That's how close those things can get. So bowl games, especially with all of the players opting out, and you never know who's motivated and who's not. Be careful on what you're doing with these bowl games on FanDuel. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so besides the Sun Belt and the Heisman Trophy, Travis Hunter winning that one over Ashton Gentry from Boise State. By the way, shout out to, I need to find out who that fan was, because I did say Georgia Southern couldn't stop Ashton Gentry, and he said, by the way, that guy's the real deal. It turned out he was right. So the other big story was Marshall opting out of the bowl game. Not enough players to do that. I wish someone had mentioned to Syracuse they could have opted out of the bowl game last year when they fired the head coach and everybody transferred out, and you have a tight end playing quarterback, and it was embarrassing to say the least, but I did get to meet Coach Fran Brown. Having said that, another issue that they have to fix, and it doesn't start with the players, it starts with the coaches. All right. If Charles Huff doesn't take the job with the season still going on, the players don't leave, right? And the players are leaving not only because the coach leaves, but because they have to be in school to enroll to be in spring ball. That's their priority. Their priority is not the bowl game. The priority is themselves and the next year. You got to fix it, So somewhere along the way, NIL, the only way to do it is to connect NIL with the bowl game. A big chunk has to be in the bowl game, and that's the way you're going to get these players to stick around. Not necessarily the ones that are going to go pro. That's not going to happen. All right, that's not going to be enough money for them to risk playing in a bowl game if they have legit shots of going pro. But this is not on the kids. Don't put this on the kids, right? The adults can't figure this out. We can go back. You don't have to go to, the Wharton School of Business to figure out planes should load from the back, and we could save 15 minutes on every flight. Come on, it's not that difficult. First class can load first, and then zone 1 can be the last 10 rows, and everybody would get in there quicker instead of a haphazard where we're going to load and everyone's waiting for everybody else. It would be much easier the other way. Well, we can all figure this out. All right. You can't go into the portal until after the bowl game. All right. And the longer you play, that's going to be more difficult. So what's going to happen is, you're going to have one time to go into the portal, and that's going to be after spring. That's when it's going to start. You're going to have to wait. That's when they're going to shut it down. You're not going to have 2 times to go into the portal. That's what it's going to be. All right. You're going to have to be here, whether your coach leaves or not. All right. Because you can't do it twice. Because that's what happens now, right? People transfer, you don't win the job, and then you leave again. And so I don't blame the kids. I don't even really blame Charles Huff, but that's where it started. And in this case, it was Huff, but it's coaches all over the place. The coaches leave before the kids do, and then it's just a domino effect. Could they have played? Was there anybody left? Again, Syracuse played in their bowl game last year at FAU with a tight end at quarterback. So you are really taking away the opportunity for the people who stayed, and that's got to be disappointing for the people who stayed. But it can't be all that difficult. Also, someone's going to come up and say, "Well, that's not fair." Well, life's not fair. All right, someone somewhere, it's not going to be 100% correct if you make a rule and it's going to hurt somebody somewhere. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. Whereas you have to play in the bowl game, players are still going to opt out, right? One way or the other, but you can't go into the portal, and they're going to make that so you're going to get one shot in the portal, right? That's the thing. You can't have two shots. That's where we're going to slow that down. You get to be in the portal. Maybe it is, just a one time after spring ball. All right, we're going to see where you are after spring ball, and you get to go in the portal following the spring semester, and you can be in there and go through summer practices, workouts, whatever the case may be, and then you're ready for practice at the end of July, beginning of August. Right? That seems to be the easiest solution. Will anybody do that? No, because it's easy. I don't know if it's that easy, but we need to stop having the kids go into the portal so quickly. And I am as pro player as you can get. I think they should get paid. I don't think it's the way I thought it would be, but it has turned into pay for play. Right. We were just all hoping that, the car dealership would step up and the NCAA would allow you to sign some autographs, but that's not really what it's turned into, right? When guys are getting millions of dollars, and that was a few and far between, when they're getting millions of dollars to go to these schools, it's not turned into what we've hoped. And someone along the way, Charlie Baker, we're looking at you. Step up and make some suggestions, anything, and let's see what sticks. Throw something out there, because so far it doesn't look like the NCAA. It just, they raise their hands or saying nothing. All right. Players are going to sue. Well, then negotiate with the players. Whoever is going to sue, this is what we're going to. All right. Well, what do you want? Well, we want free agency the whole time. Well, no, we need something different. Well, the coaches have it. Okay. So the coaches have it. We're going to need something a little bit better for the players. All right. Someone along the way. So that's what I say. Have the portal open one time after spring ball, and that would prevent some of this. It wouldn't necessarily prevent all of it, because, again, guys are going to opt out of playing in bowl games, because that's going to happen, whatever is the case, moving forward. All right. So, again, not blaming Marshall. It is a little bit disappointing. I'm not a big fan of going to Shreveport anyways, but it is what it is. All right. We have done a lot of Marshall. And again, the Thundering Herd are playing for the soccer national championship. Not going to sit here and tell you I've watched a second of college soccer this year, but we're going to compare this situation to the college football playoff, as Marshall is taking on Vermont later tonight on Monday night for the college national championship in soccer. We will do that after we tell you about watching the college football playoff. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back. And with a newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all of the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then, the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Continued thanks for the support. We'll be hopefully at 1,800. I'm hoping by the end of Monday leading into Tuesday. And we'll see how quickly we can get to 1,900 and maybe an outside shot at 2,000. I didn't think that was a possibility a month ago. It still may not be a great possibility, but the idea that it is a possibility blows me away. So you guys are great. Really appreciate it. All right. So obviously Marshall has been a big topic of discussion, opting out of the bowl game, the college search. By the way, Ralph Russo wrote an outstanding background on the whole thing in The Athletic. So if you want to go read that, he got the scoop from both Christian Spears and Charles Huff. Came out a few days ago. Last week it came out, but it seems to be, again, everyone seems to be happy, which we've been saying all along. All right, so again, Marshall, a 13 seed, taking on Vermont, unseeded in the national championship. I believe that's 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, and so what do we hear in this college football playoff? Well, Alabama would be favored against so and so and so and so. Boise State doesn't have a chance to win this thing. All right. Vermont, by the way, went through, and again, haven't watched any of this, so I'm just going off of the NCAA stuff. Let me see if we got the printed out one. Vermont beat Iona, who was 11-4-3. They beat 7-seeded Hofstra, who had lost 4 times this year. They beat San Diego, who had lost 2 times this year. And they beat Denver, who had lost 3 times this year, 3rd-seeded Denver. And they beat 2nd-seeded Pittsburgh, who was oddly 12-5. You know, nobody thought at the beginning of the soccer tournament Vermont was going to make a run. Meanwhile, Marshall, right? And so they have. Plus, that's not the point. The point isn't, to me anyways, it may be to others, can Boise State win this, right? I happen to think Boise State's better than Clemson. It shouldn't be Alabama in over SMU or Boise. It should be, does Clemson deserve to be in it, regardless if they win the ACC? And for those wondering why you have these automatic berths, it's because the ACC and the Big 12 don't want to get screwed when, say, Georgia's undefeated and Alabama's undefeated, and LSU has the 1 loss to Alabama, and Florida has the 1 loss to Georgia, and Ole Miss has the 2 losses to Alabama and LSU. Do all 5 teams get in? 4 teams are going to get in, right? And so now Clemson, the ACC, and the Big 12 are making sure they are represented in there, despite maybe not deserving. All right. But, because it's all about who can win it. Well, who should be there? Right? Is it 12 best teams, 12 most deserving teams? Again, nobody thought Vermont was going to do it. And I don't know how many people thought Marshall was going to be in the national championship, but they're there, right? This is not, and soccer, I presume, is about a hot goaltender too, right? Compared to, college basketball, you can get hot from 3, right? FAU can hit some clutch threes and play some good defense, and all of a sudden you can find yourself in the Final Four and the national championship game. Can you get hot in football? All of a sudden your offensive line comes together? Maybe, probably not, right? Maybe a fluky play or 2 can go your way, or maybe turnovers are all of a sudden going your way. That can happen. We've seen that, in my time. But for the most part, you are what you are. But I think it's going to go to 14 teams, and then it's going to go to 16 teams. And I think 16 teams is enough. But soccer, my point is, soccer is proving that the football playoff is what it should be. It shouldn't be about, people were like, well, we should just go back to the BCS in the top 2, or just go back to the 14 playoff. No, I'm so looking forward to this 12-team playoff. I really am. I will be locked in to as many games as I can. I'm still getting older, need to wake up. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to watch all these games if they're on the weekends only, but tells you how locked I am. Not exactly sure when they are, but we will be watching them as much as we can, because I think it's thrilling. Because the whole idea is to get those SEC schools to play in the cold. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I wanted to see. It's not about Clemson playing Texas. I wanted to see Alabama at Notre Dame, which I thought would have been like the highest rated football game in a long time, right? I wanted to see a Georgia go to Ohio State or something along those lines, right? Let's send a Texas to Oregon, right? And I'm getting seedings wrong, but you get the idea. I wanted the warm weather team not to play in the warm weather or a dome and go to the cold weather team, because the warm weather teams don't ever deal with the weather. And let's see how they can deal with the weather. And then let's hear them, cry and moan about conditions. And it should be this is the playoffs. It should be, at a neutral field, like, the Super Bowl, whatever. Moving forward, though, and we'll see. Remember, it's only the first round that's at home field. That's it. After the first round, they don't get, like, Boise is not going to play a home game, which is disappointing, right? They get the first round bye, but they're not playing a home game. That will be at a bowl site in the warm weather, unfortunately. That's the disappointing part. I think moving forward, you're going to get 2 rounds when you get to 14 or 16. Everyone's playing 4 games. You're not going to have any buys. And I think everyone's going to play 2 rounds of home games. That's what I think. Because it's expensive for the fans. This is an NCAA tournament, things where you're filling up arenas of 20,000 in the first couple of rounds, and you have, what do you got? 8 teams in the first round, right? And so you got a bunch of fans filling up the arenas. This is only 2 teams, and you got to fill up where they may not be from. So that's difficult. Whereas usually in the NCAA tournament, they try to do it with the pod, and it's kind of local-ish. So you're going to have a home team or 2, at least from the surrounding area. So I think that's where it's going to go. But I think the Marshall Thundering Herd and Vermont are both proving that anybody can do any of this, can make a run and play for a national championship. We'll see if it's Georgia, right? I mean, Georgia was, barely wins in overtime in the SEC championship game, and all of a sudden they're the 2 seed. I don't know what seed they should be, but I think they were, on their way of not making the playoff, and now they're in the 2 seed, right? I don't think Texas is all that great. We'll see who steps up, right? It's kind of Oregon. Maybe Alabama could have made a run if they got into it, but we'll see if SMU wins a game or 2. All right, we'll see if Boise State wins a game or 2. We'll see if Ohio State falls on their face again. All right, I'm looking forward to all of it, but I thought that Marshall and Vermont, not necessarily the favorites coming into the soccer tournament, and I get soccer is very different than these other sports, but I thought they are proving everyone who wanted a playoff, all our points, that it makes it better for everybody else, not just the superpowers. All right. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We're well on our way to 1,800 subscribers, a record amount of views this past week. We basically had a month worth of views in the first 2 weeks of December, and we should set easily another record for the month over the next couple of weeks as well. So have a great Monday, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day.